from the Zimmer Radio Network headquarters.
When we have good numbers, the markets ought to go up, not go down. And that's the way you build greatness. You build greatness that way.
It's your morning addiction. Wake Up Missouri with Stephanie Bell.
And we will resist until this does not happen again.
The Zimmer News Team.
3/4 of American STEM students can't find employment after college.
And now introducing your host, Randy Tobler.
We're going back and forth, and now they both agreed through me to stop. And we're in the final throes of what will be a very, very good deal that will not allow in any way, shape, or form nuclear weapons.
Well, there's a clip from about 2 months ago. That was from yesterday. President Donald Trump saying we're on the home stretch. They've agreed to everything. It's going to be a beautiful deal. Just a couple of days. As now Iran and Israel have stopped, at least temporarily, the lobbing of missiles and defensive tactics back and forth. Welcome into Wake Up Missouri. Mike Murphy from the Eagle Eye Drive at 5 joining us. He's in for Stephanie Bell. Mike, how you be?
Good, I'm good. Good morning. Good morning, Randy.
Oh, man, Drake there. And Drake has a sore throat. He's been moving. He's fatigued. Immune system's down a little bit. John's not moving. He's there, as always. How you doing,
John? Sort of stagnant. Yeah.
John's stagnating. Well, we talk about eating fermenting things. John is fermenting as he stagnates in place.
Stay upwind.
Drake, now, moving is challenging. There's no doubt about it. It's upheaval. It's rough. Are you doing okay?
You know what's more challenging?
Yeah.
It's planning dates. I've learned that.
Yeah?
So if you stay tuned, you'll probably hear that story because holy moly, am I bad at it?
Yeah.
After yesterday,
if Drake writes a book, The Art of the Date, do not buy it. Do not buy it, ladies and gentlemen.
I can get you there, but I can't get you past that.
Unless it's about his experience with Middle Eastern palm fruits or something.
Yeah, that's true.
Right. We're going to be talking later on with Tanya Powers about what's going on in Iran because no one knows what's going on over there. We keep hearing it's sort of hey, it's going to happen. Then the next thing there's missiles lobbing back and forth, and then it's on again, off again. Little tension clearly between Netanyahu and Donald Trump, right? I mean,
clearly,
no doubt about that. They're approaching it as a couple of guys would approach it. Hey, we can disagree. We can have a little. Hey, we can rough one another up, but let's go out and have a beer afterwards. That's the way they're approaching it.
But in all seriousness, the San Antonio Spurs do have access to a nuclear weapon, so yet Netanyahu, they need to be taken off.
I understand they played for the whole game last night. They played through the whole game and won. Right?
That was the worst scandal. Oh my gosh, that was the worst officiating I've ever seen.
I didn't see it. What happened?
Wembanyama threw a guy to the floor, like literally threw him to the floor, and there was no call.
Wow.
Yeah, no, it was a bloodbath.
Well, I've said that before. That seems to be, to me, the most objective, probably second only to football. No, first. The first is football. No, second is football. So the leading is the subjectivity of refereeing in the basketball game. One time a guy touches a guy, you see the jersey, ruffle. Oh, foul, penalty, 2 shots. And then another time, something like that happens and nothing comes of it. I don't understand it. But then again, I'm not a basketball guy. I don't understand it.
So ask Caitlin Clark about the refereeing in the big leagues.
Yeah, get knocked around all the time. Catch me up, Drake. So the Knicks had a commanding 3-1 lead. Now it's 3-2 after last night. Is that where we're at in this thing?
It was a 2-0 lead. They took both of them in San Antonio. Haven't lost since April 23rd. So just this insane winning streak. San Antonio, they go in, they bully their way to a win last night.
Yeah. Okay, so it's 2-1.
2-1. Next game should be tomorrow.
Okay. And President Trump stole a little bit of the spotlight yesterday.
Too much.
Yeah, during the anthem, there was a lot of noise coming from the crowd. The left-wing media says that he was booed by the lefties. The right-wing crowd said no. In New York, there was actually a fair amount of supporters. So I don't know what's true.
It's a garden. Who can tell if they're booing or cheering?
Yeah, that's how they cheer. Yeah. The worst that I understood this morning was the traffic jams from getting him in and out of there. Tied up traffic, made a mess, made people be late. And then there's a picture of him falling asleep later in the game, sitting in his chair. Don't know if it's real or not, but it's not a good look.
Not a good look. Yeah, because there's been a lot said about how he's allegedly, nodding off at meetings. But Have you ever been at a meeting? I've been at a meeting where I'm trying to think and I pensively close my eyes and I'm trying to ponder what's going on, what's being said. I mean, that can happen.
Oh, I would admit to just nodding off. I think you can
happens to our listeners every morning.
Well,
right,
yes. That's what happens when Mike's listening to the show every morning, nodding off. His wife, hey.
I get in these meetings at home, and it's like, I wish my camera wasn't on so I could just take a little snooze here.
That never happens at any corporate meetings.
Right.
Everyone's out there going, yeah, right.
No, that's never happened to me before, right, Randy?
Never.
Yeah, I think I fell asleep at our meeting last week.
Yeah, and I didn't mean to. I should have covered you better, but I didn't know. I was sitting over where Mike's sitting, and I couldn't see you behind the monitor. You're on the other side of the monitor, and I'm like, hey, Drake, who do we have on, who's on the guest board for later this week? Nothing.
No, I was like, I don't know. And the worst part was I thought I was slick with it because I walk out and I'm like, yeah, Randy, I think I was dozing off in that meeting. He was like, you think? And I was like, oh, was it that bad? And then later, like around 12 o'clock, Peter comes in with his lunch and I'm talking to Chris Kennedy about something. And he's like, yeah, well, at least you didn't fall asleep during the meeting. And I was like, I didn't know you knew. So my bad. My bad.
Oh.
In Trump's defense, with the schedule he keeps, or if any of us kept, at 78 years old and it's 10 o'clock at night and you're sitting at the end of the day, I think it wouldn't be surprising to catch myself nodding off also.
And J.D. Vance was talking about the other day when someone was interviewing him about this, and he said, excuse me, at 2 a.m. on a flight to Timbuktu, he's waking us up. We just want to get a little shut-eye, and he's walking up and down the halls looking for the aisles looking for someone to talk to. So, I mean, the guy works on a different schedule. I don't know. Sometimes when Helene gets to bed, the dog has been taken, everyone's quiet. Sometimes that 9:30 to 11 o'clock spot is a good slot. You can get some work done because it's quiet.
It's a thing with entrepreneurs, too. Those of us who came up in the corporate world, you got the 8 to 5 thing going and your whole biorhythms become that. Some entrepreneurs are totally different. They just work at a different time frame.
Yeah. It's so I don't know. The guy certainly is. I mean, he is as far from Sleepy Joe as the sun is from the moon. And if he nods off in a meeting, I mean, will the press acknowledge that he has allowed more press access in a week than Biden did in a term?
Well, I mean, every time he's on Air Force One at 2 in the morning, he's got a bevy of reporters around him.
Yeah. And then there's this out of. I don't know, the People's Republic of California.
So does the tip of the iceberg. Speaking of fraud, the president keeps saying that there's election fraud in the California mayoral race. What evidence is there to prove that?
You tell me, Manu. They are counting votes weeks after the election. We have entire nations with huge populations, like India, that can count their votes in 24 to 40
You're
hours.
saying it's rigged like the president?
I'm not saying it's rigged. I'm saying it stinks to high heaven, and everybody knows that.
So, look. I don't know. Mike, you follow, of course, on Como Buzz and on Eagle Eye Drive at 5. You're you know more about, I think, the Columbia goings-on and elections and politics than the people in the elections. If there were, because this is more about sociology and behavior. Okay, so as of Wednesday morning last week, Spencer Pratt was in a fairly solid second place. He had, a several-point lead on this progressive ramen out there in Los Angeles, right? And then it seems like of the votes that were coming in afterwards that could be had to be postmarked by Election Day and can come in and then be counted as late as, today, a week after. A preponderance of them, an overwhelming preponderance of them is for one campaign. Does that say something about mail-in voters? Or, in fact, could it say something about potential fraud?
Probably both.
What does that say? If that system was in Columbia, would you find that the people that mailed the votes in would vote for the most wild-eyed progressive candidate because that's when people mail in votes that are of that ilk?
Well,
I don't know.
It occurs to me if you just take mail-in in general, then you'd say, no, you should already be able to call the election.
You would think so.
But maybe they come from a certain geographic area, a certain zip code or something like that. Without a full understanding of the facts, nothing really surprises me in a good way. Like you see it locally too when the votes come in from a different precinct. even from one side of like a ward in the city of Columbia to the other side of the ward, depending on where somebody lives or doesn't live, there can be significant differences. So and that's why local races, you can't call them till the end because you just never know what's going to happen. But in California, come on, you can't take a month to count up. You got to go back to the system and start over and get it. So you need to be delivering results. Probably the next day is the way to do this. Otherwise, you're begging for this kind of a problem. You need to set it up so that you can announce who won that thing that night, if possible.
Florida can do it.
I know. Well, anybody can. They just have to choose
We
to.
do it.
Yes, pretty much. We do.
That's right.
We get into some trouble now with these votes that have to be counted separately. Like, say you don't have the right registration, so you can still vote, but then they got to go back and handle those separately. But there's usually not very many of them.
The provisional vote.
Yeah, before they certify, they got to get those done. It's a small amount, but by and large, in Missouri, we know pretty much immediately what's going to happen.
Well, so John,
2000 in Florida. That's all I have to say. In the hanging chads, right?
Well, John, I see this this tweet, which Elon Musk actually asked his own Grok to confirm from the Attorney General in California. When you're registering to vote in California, if you don't have a Social Security number or a license, here's what his tweet says. California allows first-time voters to register using forms of ID, including, are you ready for this? Gym membership card, employer ID card, credit or debit card, prescription drug label, insurance card. So I'm Consuela from Guadalajara.
Yeah.
I cross the border. I get a prescription for some sinus medicine, and now I can vote in California?
No, that just means that
Are you kidding me?
anybody can register. You have to have it. They urge you to bring a piece of paper so we can spell your name correctly.
And then you get an automatic mailed ballot mailed to you.
Now you're
everyone on the register, on the voters, and what they'll say is, well, these are registered voters, so we're mailing them an opportunity to be inclusive. Well, but the registration process is flawed. If the foundation is built on sand and is of sand, how can the whole system have any validity?
The foundation is broken between two schools of thought. One is that you need to be a verified American citizen or resident of the state to vote. That's the way you think. The way they think is, no, anybody who shows up gets to vote. That's just the simple matter of it.
And we don't need an ID.
No, just show up.
The founding fathers would be they are. I thought it was thunder. It's the founding fathers rolling over in their graves. Right? That's what's going on. It's the Daily DC Rundown coming up. John will bring it to you. Stay tuned.
It's Wake Up Missouri.
saying that their fight continues. And Bass's campaign was already on the attack after Rahman pushed ahead of Spencer Pratt by about 3,000 votes.
Yep, Pratt's out. John's in for Steph with the Daily DC Rundown.
Los Angeles City Council member Nithya Raman will face off against incumbent Karen Bass in the November election for L.A. mayor. News comes after Raman surged ahead in election results over the weekend, overtaking political newcomer Spencer Pratt. Under California's primary system, the top 2 vote-getters advance onto the general, regardless of party affiliation. Judgment Day for Graham Plattner, the Democrat Senate candidate in left-leaning Maine, aiming to oust longtime Republican Susan Collins in a race that's among a handful that will determine if the GOP hangs on to its slim Senate majority. Plattner, the oyster farmer, military combat veteran backed by Bernie Sanders and other top progressive champions, facing a slew of controversies, not the least of which allegations of sexual abuse, Nazi tattoos, etc. Iran and Israel say they've halted military operations following the dramatic exchange of fire that tested the fragile truce between Tehran and Washington. President told Israel and Iran to immediately stop shooting at each other and said both sides were seeking an immediate ceasefire. Yemen's Houthi rebels said they were banning Israeli vessels from the Red Sea. The Iranian-backed group appears to be engaging more directly with yet another missile attack on Israel.
Yeah, I think people are getting tired of this back and forth. There's a little spat, a little fisticuffs between either Israel and Lebanon, or Israel and Iran, or Iran on behalf of Hezbollah to Israel, and then it quiets down. He tries to be the adult in the room. They listen a little bit, and he says, we've got a deal coming. And nothing continues, nothing happens, and the straits are blocked, and oil prices are high, and nothing changes. And I think people are getting tired of the promise without the deliver. So I don't know.
The midterms right around the corner could be a big role.
Well, there's something wrong with the story out of Washington. I mean, the mainstream media is, you can't get a straight story. Now, there are plenty of stories out there that have different takes on what's going on, both, supporting Trump and saying that Trump's basically losing this war and position us in a terrible position going forward. But you would think that the administration itself can't wake up another day and keep saying the same thing for another. I remember 2 months ago, Hannity saying, I will give this 2 weeks maximum. And, that's basically the White House's press secretary, so to speak. Right. I'll give this 2 weeks maximum. And he said that for 2 months now. So it's like, I just wish we were hearing something out of the administration that kind of makes this make some sense, so we could get some confidence that we're at least getting the straight scoop out of Washington. I don't feel like we are at all.
Well, I think you lose credibility. There's one thing about a CEO being optimistic, and when, the times are tough and the company's hitting a little bit of a rough patch or projections didn't pan out, everyone understands that. And it's the CEO's job to remain optimistic. Okay. But on the other hand, to oversell it and to continue, that would be as though if the host of a radio show said, hey, when we come back from something, we're going to talk about something, and not do that. That's never happened on this show, for instance.
Yeah, right.
But if that happens, no, but if it happens continuously, if you make a promise and a promise and a promise and you don't deliver, that's a real problem, right?
Well, and don't you think, and I hate to be, I don't want to go down into negative Trump land. I know where that goes.
No, and we don't want to.
But don't you think that can't you help but feel like the ego gets in the way and his...
It does. He'll be back in a minute.
Has America been fair to Donald Trump?
I don't know if you've been, what you think of this Graham Plattner deal going on in Maine, but it tells us a lot about the state of politics in our country. Mike Murphy's with us. Of course, you hear him every day here on 93.9 The Eagle and the Eagle Eye Drive at 5. Great show. And publisher of, publisher, chief writer, website designer, bottle washer and cook at Como Buzz, right?
Yeah. Right.
That's what it is, running a small news outlet these days, right? It's tough when you're not the New York Times with a staff of 80. But the investigative reporting and the great stuff is there at 7:35. We're going to ask Mike to sort of unpack in the time we have to talk about a 5-part series on government. And I think, you delved into the specifics in Columbia, but it applies to all governments, really, right? State, local, federal. So we'll talk about that at 7:35. Matt Schuck from the RNC is going to join us. He was a staffer on Jason Smith's committee, and he's worked under Sean Duffy, Department of Transportation. Talked to him about affordability and housing. This opinion piece came out yesterday evening on Graham Plattner. Now, this is not from a former Heritage Foundation operative woman who obviously, according to Graham Plattner's people, is just a plant, right? That was a soft sell to be dismissive on the part of the New York Times. This is Genevieve McDonald, a former Maine state representative, the former political director of Graham Plattner's primary campaign. The title of this piece in the Washington Post, I know firsthand why Graham Plattner shouldn't be a U.S. senator. She quit the campaign last fall, disturbed by what she'd learned about the candidate. And she became his candidate in August of last year, leaving the position as a senior policy advisor. She thought that Plattner and her shared the same goal, fighting for working people. She quit, disturbed by what, quote, I learned about the candidate and concerned about his potential impact on the Democratic Party's prospects in my home state. What she said is that if America wants a stronger democracy, this is the talking issue on the table I'm throwing out this segment. 573-874-9390. If you want to call, 800-529-5572. If America wants a stronger democracy, she says, elevating leaders with integrity is essential. Leaders with sound judgment and ethics. Leaders who embrace and live the ideals the nation stands for. Plattner has shown us he is not such a leader. He exhibits a pattern of dishonest behavior that's impossible to ignore. I was one of the Plattner campaign's first gaslighting casualties. In September, he told her he had a tattoo that could be problematic, but assured me it was just a military thing. Isn't it recently when he said he didn't know what the tattoo meant? You can't have it both ways. Either be transparent and said, oh my God, it was a terrible mistake. We were a bunch of over-testosterone guys that were full of PTSD drinking at the bar, and I made a huge mistake. I mean, if you're going to do it, get it out there. But then you can't deny it later. That's the integrity deficit, bigger to me than maybe even getting the tattoo. At what point, where should the bar be, Mike, John, Drake, of our expectation of personal behavior? I don't think we expect our candidates to be Jesus Christ, the second coming, faultless. But my goodness, this pattern of over and over and over character just...
Oh, yeah. My first thought when you started in her comments was she has a unrealistic bar for the integrity and conduct of a U.S. senator. I don't share it. But on the same hand, what you're talking about now is true. A Nazi symbol on your body is a little, even for the standards in my head for a United States senator.
And it's not a swastika. It's the one apparently that the SS guards wore at the concentration camp.
Death's head.
A death head, like what?
Skull and crossbones, basically.
Totenkopf.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Man.
Totenkopf. Yeah. My take on it was, and I saw one of the guys talking on Fox about it, who was one of their military analysts, and he went down a lane that they didn't expect him to. And they said, "What do you think of this guy?" And Plattner with his tattoo, and he said. He was a 20-year-old jarhead was a phrase he used. He said 20-year-old Marines get stupid tattoos.
Yeah. Really?
Which I thought was kind of funny, and they kind of looked at each other and rapidly went on to the next segment.
Wow.
Yeah, and I think too, and this is indefensible really to somebody who wants to argue it, but I think youth is one thing. And sometimes the symbolism, the Confederate flag is still prominently flown in the South, and, guys have it on their pickup truck running around, license plates, all that kind of thing. And it means one thing to some people and another thing to another people. And you can call those people ignorant, and you're going to be right. But on the same hand, different things mean different things to different people. You know what I mean? And
yeah.
I don't want to make a defense for this. It's what I'm doing. But it doesn't strike me as like, I'm like, okay, shrug my shoulders and move on. Really, that's how I kind of look at it.
Now, one of our listeners texts, he's clearly not he doesn't wear a MAGA hat.
Yeah.
Says, I think Trump at the character bar. Hard to go back now.
Well, absolutely.
Well, Bill Clinton.
Absolutely.
How's that blue dress working out for you?
Yeah.
Where's Trump's Nazi tattoo? Maybe I missed it in the physical.
No, it's the comments, it's the public comments, it's the behavior, it's the. I mean,
you can be a jerk in public. You can do you can be a jerk, a mean person, very say not so great things. I think having a Nazi tattoo is worse. I don't know. Maybe.
I think we'd all agree that probably no matter where the bar is. At least you need to acknowledge it's a colossal, colossal mistake and apologize genuinely. But what troubles me is in the light of the abusive behavior, barricading a woman in the bathroom or the bedroom or something, and if only half of it's true, a lot of you hear these women on the street interviews yesterday. I'm full speed ahead, Plattner. We've got to win. Have we, the American electorate, become so vociferous in our politics, in our divide, that we'll do anything to win? We'll sacrifice our own values? I mean, is that where we're at?
Evangelicals supporting Trump.
Yeah.
Isn't that pretty much a straight parallel?
Yeah.
Not one you want to hear, but isn't it about the same thing?
Yeah.
Well, how about the church endorsing? Well, I don't know. I view it as a very terrible misstep of the church when the church is endorsing the open borders. I mean, a lot of the, I know a lot of Catholic organizations were doing that. Maybe other religious organizations. Part of the whole, busing and airplaning them flying them to other places. Okay, I know he's been convicted of fraud and sexual abuse. The sexual abuse conviction in New York City, I would say, is you could make a good argument that this gal has herself made fraudulent comments. She couldn't even remember the specifics of it. So, to defend Trump in that instance,
Right.
I think we need to take a step back.
I think in
there.
Trump, it's not the specifics. It's just the big picture. It's the big picture of, you would think he would be unpalatable to evangelicals. But the point there, I think, is they're embracing his policy, not the person. Yeah. And when you're going to this guy in Maine, if there is an excuse for these women, and I'm not sure this is the same thing, but they're embracing the policy. He's a Bernie Sanders fella, right?
Yeah.
They're embracing that, and they're looking past his personal shortcomings or worse.
But that's a judgment issue. That comes down to just judgment, doesn't it?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Well, then you're back to the whole debate of if this guy was a GOP candidate with the same baggage, here comes the Me Too movement all over again.
I was just going to say the same thing. Thank goodness he's a lefty.
Yeah. Well, I think my biggest criticism of Donald Trump, because I want his policies to be successful. I want the conservative movement. I want a return to limited government. I want less regulation. I want close borders. Okay, I think a lot of us would say, yeah, sound like a good thing. It doesn't help to do erratic, reckless things that hurt your political brand and your ability to move forward that agenda. Like the tariffs. It's one thing to say, hey, China 10%, tomorrow America 10%. Okay, who argues? I don't think there's a big argument over that. Maybe economists will argue on the fringes. But the 100%, 150, that's just a bargaining chip. You're bargaining, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Trump, with small business. You're bargaining with people's jobs, with people's livelihoods that hurt them tremendously. And I think that sometimes that lack of appreciation and nuance for what your policies mean when you do those quick, maneuvers like that, I think that is perhaps my biggest criticism of Donald Trump. I don't like the personal attacks, the name calling, the denigration of people, even on your own side sometimes, you know. Again, it doesn't help your brand in the end with the people that you need on your side, like independents.
Well,
or even throwing fodder over to the libs who say, see, we told you he was senile. He's out of his mind. He's old, you know.
Yeah.
And it kind of plays into that on him.
Well, and the whole degeneration of society and the way we interact with each other and discuss issues continues to spiral downward. That's having the effect of turning people off. People don't want to participate. There seems to be hard to engage in any kind of intelligent civic dialogue anymore without just running into trolls on social media or bizarre comments and a willingness to say almost anything. And when you see that coming right from the very top of our national political structure, right on down through the state and into the local political environment, it just feels like it's not a good thing.
I've always feel so tense when something inside me, it's probably my limbic system and my rage at political correctness and politicians not answering the question and not being afraid to speak what's on their mind. I sometimes am amused and sometimes even sort of that limbic is rewarded by some of Donald Trump's behavior, and we saw a little bit of that on Sunday.
5 days later, they're nowhere close to picking a winner.
State and local officials acknowledge they are slow. They're urging.
No, they're crooked.
They're urging the votes to be counted quickly. That's how they vote in California.
They're crooked, just like you're crooked. Your press is crooked, and Meet the Press is crooked.
To be fair, I'm not crooked, but let's
really.
Let's
well,
continue.
You play right into their hands.
Let's continue.
You're either crooked or you're stupid. You play right into their hands.
And he went on to say, he said, "Look, I won in a very handily, and the coverage was 94% negative." He's right. The mainstream media, NBC, CNN, they are crooked. The New York Times, they misrepresent things all the time. They mix, you know this, Mike, the mix between editorial and news, and you clearly label that on your Como Buzz and on your program. He's right, and there's something refreshing about that, to just call him out.
Yeah.
Randy, don't get your limbic system
I know, my limbic is worked
mode.
up.
Threat mode.
I know. Warning, Real Robinson. Warning, Real Robinson. Yeah. Well, when we come back, we'll talk a little bit of some health and on Make Missouri Healthy again. Stay tuned.
It's Wake Up Missouri.
On Make Missouri Healthy Again today, we're gonna delve into the world of ultra processed foods and just some cautions as you maybe make that choice between the vinegar and that kind of coleslaw at the table, and maybe the creamy coleslaw with the extra hot dog and the extra large big gulp of high fructose corn syrup soda. Last week, a pretty well-done study, albeit observational, looked at people eating various amounts of ultra-processed foods. And among them, what's included in that group, by the way, are things like, guys, I hate to tell you, hot dog, bacon, but things like chips, added sugars and salts, packaged chips, cookies and candies, Drake, the kind of things sometimes you bring to the studio, just saying. It turns out that those that had the highest intake of that had at almost a 60% higher risk of later developing dementia, and about as much, about 50% increase in cognitive impairment. And we think that may relate indirectly to their influence on inflammation, which of course is a problem for your vascular system, whether it's the vascular system to your heart or your kidneys or your legs or your brain or your retina, or anything else. I mean, inflammation is not good for your vascular system, and your vascular system feeds every organ. But the things we feel are things like heart attacks and congestive heart failure and strokes. And think of dementia in this sense as sort of a slow burn, a slow motion stroke. Not a stroke in that sense, but I mean, you lose some of your capacity. And there's a relationship between getting diabetes, having hypertension. These things all are related to the amount of processed foods we eat and ultra-processed foods. And so this is another I think nail in the coffin of the ultra-processed food era in America. And I'm very, very thankful that Robert Kennedy is getting that message out there. I'm so thankful for that. Just eat real food. Remember when he said that? Boy, if we do nothing else. Now, if you're eating 95% of the time, you're eating a pretty good clean diet, and there's very few ingredients on the label. You're cooking things from scratch, a lot of vegetables and fish and nuts and fruits and vegetables. Hey, if you're going to go to the Knicks and Spurs game, Drake, I know you are this week, have a hot dog, dude. Enjoy it.
Did you say I am? Do I look like I'm made out of money? I think
What's a ticket cost?
I think get-in price is like $10,000.
Wow.
Yeah, no, insane. And I was just about to say, don't pin food and all of that on my, bad memory. Yeah. I have to listen to you for 3 hours every day. And that will do bad things.
Zero inflammation listening to me. But here's the good news. So the pretzel stick, if you will, is the bad news. That if you eat a lot of pretzel sticks, and my favorite Dots pretzels, the more I read these stories, my serving size is going to go down to 1 or 2 when I do indulge, maybe a few more. And eventually elimination is the goal, right? Those people who ate a higher amount, the most minimally processed foods, so the healthier real food diet, had a 40% lower risk of dementia to those. And they correct for other things because they were looking for all kinds of sources of it. Could it be education? Could it be income? Could it be smoking, physical activity, and alcohol use? And we know that those things do affect it. But even when you correct for those factors, it's the ultra-processed food intake that's so very important. So, Mike, how are you doing? Are you taking, and by the way, the ultra-processed foods, a lot of preservatives and a lot of emulsifiers, not good for your microbiome. You got to take care of your microbiome. How are you doing on the real food trail?
I do very well at this stage of my life, not earlier for sure.
Yeah, me too. I think when I was growing up.
Probably most of us lived off ultra-processed food, actually, for years in some respects. No, now I'm very good. What I find is it's addictive. So when I fall off and I get into the carbs or the bad, I want more and more and more and more. If I stay off and just stay really good, I don't have the cravings that I get.
Yeah. So once you get on the merry-go-round, though, it keeps going.
So you got to stay off the merry-go-round.
There you go. Good testimony from Mike Murphy in for Stephanie Bell today. We'll be back and talk about affordability.
from the Zimmer Radio Network headquarters.
When we have good numbers, the markets ought to go up, not go down. And that's the way you build greatness. You build greatness that way.
It's your morning addiction. Wake Up Missouri with Stephanie Bell.
And we will resist until this does not happen again.
The Zimmer News Team.
3/4 of American STEM students can't find employment after college.
And now introducing your host, Randy Tobler.
I guess now I can make a bit of breaking news because I left the White House to come here to do this interview with you. And before I did, we actually referred this particular case to the Department of Justice for a full criminal investigation. We are not going to do what the Biden administration did and make judgments of the law before all the facts are in. But here's what's particularly troubling about this to me is Jesse, you had people within Governor Walz's office who were saying, you know what, this looks like fraud. It looks like these Somalian illegal immigrants are doing something that's very shady. And then you had people who shut them down, who shut these whistleblowers down and said, you know, you're a racist or you're a xenophobe for asking questions about where taxpayer money is going. What that means to me, Jesse, is that clearly people weren't taking fraud seriously. Whether it rises to the level of a criminal violation, we're going to investigate it. And of course, if it does rise to that level, we're going to prosecute it.
Well, that's J.D. Vance with breaking news last night that on the heels of a Congressional Oversight Committee report on the actions or non-actions of Governor Tim Walz and his administration. Maybe Keith Ellison maybe has something to do with that. Just saying. They're going to refer him to the DOJ. And joining us now is Matt Schuck. I hope I got that right. Schuck, right? Or is it Schuck, Matt?
Just like shucking corn.
All right.
Hey,
first time with us on Wake Up Missouri. And boy, your resume is impressive. Of course, Executive Vice President of Tholos Government Relations, but you've worked at various departments in the administrations, Department of Housing and Urban Development under Ben Carson, House Budget Committee under Jason Smith, our own Jason Smith here from in Missouri, and the Department of Transportation under Sean Duffy. So you've been throughout the wheels of government. What do you think about this latest finding of the Oversight Committee and what it tells us about Tim Walz, the Democrat Party, and fraud and abuse in America?
Well, Randy, first, I've dedicated my life to public service, and it's been an incredibly rewarding career. And as you mentioned, I got to work with Missouri's finest, the chairman of the Ways and Means Committee, Jason Smith. But to your question about these findings, I think it's absolutely insane that, if you take a step back and go to where it all began, when we initially discovered the fraud, then Tim Walz comes out and says, this is a tool of white supremacy. Somalians make the world better. Then you look at the facts and they're actually adding to the waste, fraud, and abuse and adding to inflation by stealing all this money. And then you go and find a smoking gun, tie it to them, and now Tim Walz is turning around saying the buck stops with me, and he's trying to act like a hero. It's just absolutely bizarre to me. But it's absolutely terrifying to think how close he was to being the vice president and how this would have never been discovered had he had that election swung the other way, how terrifying it would be.
Now, you're an executive vice president at Tholos Government Relations. So you're involved, I guess, now from the outside in government, business. But I'm going to ask you a very tough question. How committed are conservatives, GOP, to actually shrinking government and making D.C. just responsible for those 18 enumerated powers in the Constitution? Returning the money and the power and the decision-making back to the states? Or do we really live in a uniparty environment now? You've been in government at different levels. What's the truth?
Well, I think if you look at the Republican Party as a whole, like we're a Big Ten party, America is, I think, 50 states of different personalities. And there's a lot of noise that goes into things. And I think, right now, particularly, it kind of almost feels like if you're taking your family on a road trip and you're like in the final stretch, the final 45 minutes where all the kids are bickering in the back, it kind of feels like that. But when it comes down to it, as we saw, last year with the passage of the One Big Beautiful Bill, this once in a generation tax reform. I think the Republicans do come together at the end of the day and find a commonality to make the world a better place, to make America a stronger, better place. So I think there's a to your question about, reducing the size and scope of government, I think you use the existing structures to make it leaner and better serve the American people rather than the other way around, which is how the Democrats have it when they're in power.
Matt, back to Minnesota and fraud. Isn't there auditing things in place? Both there seems to be federal audits of grants and money that comes both at the city, county, state level. How is it, and is it common in states across the country that a fraud of this magnitude just goes undiscovered for lack of some type of internal or external auditing?
I'm not a lawyer. I just play one on TV, but something of this size and scope, you have to think, to your point, that there's multiple levels of approvals and guardrails that this money goes through. And if you look at, the country as a whole, where is the fraud popping up? It's California, it's Minnesota, and who is in charge of that? It's Gavin Newsom, it's Tim Walz, and all their staff underneath. And you have to think that everyone's hands are dirty in this. Either they're directly complicit or they're willing to turn a blind eye for the greater good or to protect their own butts and their cushy jobs that they love so much.
Seems like that's the definition of a criminal conspiracy to me.
Yeah.
It sounds like it to me. And I think we're uncovering that. And I'm very grateful that JD Vance is working diligently. I know that, there's a team of lawyers and a team of great staffers with him that are working diligently on this. And I'm just so grateful that, the American people rose up in 2024 and put Donald Trump back in the White House, because just to think if it had gone the other way, where we'd be at a nation right now is just absolutely beyond any worst nightmare you can imagine.
Matt Schuck joins us on Wake Up Missouri. His career spans senior roles across the executive branch, Congress, and national politics. And we're appreciative of that this morning on this cloudy Tuesday in Missouri.
How do you think these kind of stories play with the voting public out there, especially the hardcore conservatives, but also the undecideds as we zero in on the midterms?
Well, there's a lot of things going into the midterms that I think people are soaking in, and certainly this is one element of it. But, when you're talking about voters and what they're picking up, it's where are they getting their news and who's able to get their message to them in the best way possible. And with so many, brick walls in between us and, your independent voters, it makes it that much harder to penetrate their minds. Most people, listen, it's almost like there's an echo chamber. If you look at it, if they're getting their news from ABC, NBC, CBS, they're going to feel a certain way, heading into the election. So, one thing that has always kind of stuck with me is people vote how they feel, not what they know. So over the next 6 months, how can we tell our story to the voters to make them feel that the government is working better for them? Is their life better over the last 2 years? And how is it going to look the next 2 years with Democrats in power?
Do you think that there'll be, you mentioned earlier, Matt, we were talking about sort of, first principles, the most fundamental conservative values being a little eroded, I think, in politics and in conservative circles to widen the tent over the last few years. Maybe says more about the electorate than it does about party, leadership. They're just responding after all. Do you think, though, that there'll be a coalescence, even in the light of what is being constantly trumpeted by the media? Affordability, housing, the economy. Oh, inflation's 4%. Well, it was 9 or 10%. We can't reverse that. That damage is done. Can Kevin Marsh somehow moderate interest rates or change things from what he can do? Can Donald Trump and Pete Hegseth and Marco Rubio come to some resolution and open up the straits in time for things to moderate a little bit, so how people feel rather than what they know means either less damage or maybe even a victory in the midterms.
I agree. I mean, there's a lot of dust surrounding the Iran war and the Strait, but you also got to remember that this year was the largest tax return the American people had ever got in American history, and so there's a lot of elements of that bill that are coming to fruition that we've seen grow the economy. Job numbers are up, inflation is trending downwards. We have a little problem with the Strait, and it's a back and forth. But you got to remember, the Ayatollah has been in power for 5 decades. These things take years and years and years. We're a couple months into it. The timing is absolutely bad, but I think the president went to kick a hornet's nest, and the hornets are fighting back. But who do you want fighting back against those hornets? Is it someone like Kamala Harris, or is it someone like Donald Trump? I put my faith in Donald Trump that we're going to come to a good agreement that benefits the American people, that's going to benefit energy prices on the world, and the Strait eventually over the next couple of months there will be some breakneck, I believe.
Net positive on some of the candidate selections that the Democrats are making, even if it's not in a Missouri district. But if you look at what they're doing in California and in Maine, that has an influence on voters around the country, right? When they look at what that party is choosing or not.
Well, Graham Plattner, it's almost hypocritical. So many years they've called us racist, they called us anti-Semitic, and they've even called us Nazis just for wanting lower taxes and a strong border, and then they go and nominate a deviant Nazi tattoo supporter. And we're not even talking about a traditional Nazi tattoo. We're talking about a Nazi death camp tattoo. You can't even argue that you had a couple too many beers and stumbled in a tattoo shop and, got your ex-girlfriend tattooed on your arm. That was a decision that he made that he only changed when it became a problem. And so he's a problem for the Democrats. They're doubling down on it. They're not backing down. Let them do it. That Susan Collins is going to win by double digits, and it's going to be egg on face with them.
All right.
As far as the midterms as a whole, real quickly, if you look at the gerrymandering saga, the Supreme Court went largely the GOP's way, and then break it down state by state. We're about dead even.
Yeah.
So the race to the midterms, I think, is going to come down to 30 knife fights and 30 dark alleys to determine who's going to be the victor in November.
All right. Predictions from Matt Schuck. Hope to talk to you again before that unfolds.
Absolutely,
Matt.
Randy. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being with us, brother. Appreciate it. Yeah, he's right. There's a judgment issue there, by all means. All right, we'll be back with a little more on Wake Up Missouri and a compare and contrast between whether Trump does or doesn't really root for the Knicks. Stay tuned.
It's Wake Up Missouri.
He's in for Stephanie today, and we're going to be talking with Tanya J. Powers from Fox News at 8:08 about an Iran update, because things are just so changeable and dynamic over there. One day they're fighting, the next day they're not. No? I thought that's what it was. No?
No, we're talking about primaries, buddy.
Oh, primaries, sorry. I thought it was about Iran. Well, I'm going to give you the Iran update then. For temporarily, Mike, they've stopped fighting now. Israel and Iran were after it, after Israel and Lebanon were after it, and then Donald Trump said, I'm in control here. Are they listening or not? I don't know.
Well, hold it. They lobbed a couple missiles. Was it yesterday? So now they're not.
No, this was day before yesterday.
Okay, all right.
Israel and Lebanon got into it. Then Iran was defending Hezbollah by firing missiles into Tel Aviv. Israel fired back at assets inside. Then they did sort of stand down.
Then the Houthis jumped in.
Then the Houthis jumped in. I don't know. Well, okay, so I am really tired of undeserved, non-factual Trump ripping. And, here's Hakeem Jeffries. Here's Hakeem Jeffries saying that Trump's affection for the Knickerbockers is faux and it's fake.
So I've had a few things to say about Donald Trump going to the Knicks game. And, at this point, it's game day. And I think Knicks fans just want to enjoy Game 3, the first home game that we've had in 27 years. But it also is not clear to me that Donald Trump is a big Knicks fan. I mean, does this guy even know the difference between Karl Rove and Karl Anthony Towns?
Well, Mr. Jeffries, Adam Silver, the commissioner of the NBA, who's I'm not a big fan of, but he was interviewed in the pregame show. Listen to what he had to say about Mr. Crump.
And Trump, I've been with the league for a long time. I ran NBA Entertainment years ago. He did an I Love Kids game spot with us. He was a fixture at NBA at Madison Square Garden. You guys remember, well, all of you, when you played here, not Draymond, but back in the old days, he had courtside seats. He was here all the time. He was at drafts. So he's a genuine Knicks fan. And so, yes, there's some inconvenience to the fans here, but one looking around this arena, it's packed. So people listen, they came early, they got through whatever extra security.
Mike?
Yeah.
To use the words of Gary Nolan, who you'll listen to after us at 9 o'clock, does that frost your buns as a journalist to have just frankly, politicians just frankly lying about the truth?
Well, or he's just massively he's running it, to me, he's running his mouth without knowing what he's talking about, Yeah. So I saw that's what I was referring to earlier in the show, that I saw that story earlier. No, he's just going off. He's annoyed. Trump is there. Traffic got delayed. He's in there. That's how he sees it. He doesn't have a clue, I'm guessing, that no, he's now Silver points out, no, he's a genuine fan. He's been a fan forever. He's been a fixture here. It's like, so the guy just made an ass out of himself.
How embarrassing.
Yeah. But at that level of the game, who's going to remember tomorrow? That's what's all wrong.
I am. Are you kidding me? Trump should not be at that game. That was the worst call he's ever had. New York City.
But the point, no. This is about Hakeem Jeffries just misrepresenting the truth.
Yeah, Hakeem Jeffries is stupid. We've known this for years. But I mean,
the people that voted for him don't know it, apparently, or they ignore it.
Yeah, that's also something we've known for years. Trump shouldn't have been at that game. He should not.
Because of the inconvenience to everybody?
Inconvenience, and he's a bad luck charm. We have filed taxes before the last time the Knicks lost, before last night. Let that sink in.
All right, we'll let it sink in.
Okay.
Hey,
when we come back,
Queens. He's a Knicks fan.
Mike has done a fabulous job of unpacking the inner workings and rust and corruption and corrosion in government. Stay tuned for that.
I think just local news is like the most important stuff to me, even though it's kind of like
Mike Murphy, you read him on Como Buzz online, and you hear him here on Eagle Eye Drive at 5 on the Eagle. He's in for Steph this morning. And I've been looking at this 5-part series that you did, that you've done and published on Como Buzz. And I think it really speaks to what is so frustrating, not only to the residents of Columbia, but I think it applies to Jefferson City, maybe Springfield, to different degrees. People in general, and certainly federally, Mike, people in general are frustrated with an ever-increasing demand on them as taxpayers or as regulator compliancers, that's a new word, and not getting what they expect and deserve and feel the government is returning to them. Is that a fair way to couch this?
Definitely.
And that's sort of the overall take that I get on this 5-part series and elements of it. What was the genesis of this? And give us a little capsule of what it's all about.
We could go in a zillion different directions because now there's so many things with the city of Columbia. They're so disingenuous is really part of it. So what's happening here, and I think the overall concept is people are upset, but they need to get involved in their government and understand. Right now, there's this big thing. There's a petition starting in Columbia to get the city audited. Well, the city is audited. They have a beautiful audit every year, an outside audit. No, we are electing people to make decisions who are making decisions that are taking us in a wrong direction. Once we elect them, they get to make those decisions. They're making the decisions, not illegal. It's not even necessarily wrong. You can just disagree with it. And here's the decisions that's been made in Columbia. And what's happened is, so just for some background, from 2018 to 22, those 5 budget years, the city of Columbia budgeted 26 new positions over 5 years. 26 new positions. They got 1,500. Okay.
Wow.
So 26 new positions over 5 years, and overall compensation in those 5 years rose 12%. That's very modest, kind of conservative growth.
For 5 years, you could say, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So DeCarlin Seawood gets the city manager's job in January of 22. Barbara Buffalo gets elected mayor in April and takes office in April of 22. Over the next 4 years, 23, 24, 25, and 26, they added 151 new positions to the budget. They did a wage and compensation study and took them from mid-market in their words to top of the market and raised compensation roughly 20% for city employees. And over the 4-year period, the cost of personnel rose 25%. Okay, those are just facts, verifiable.
5 times as many new hires, new positions.
Nobody's arguing it.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, all with no plan to pay for it. Mm-hmm. So the city finance staff began warning them this is not sustainable. They started dipping into their cash reserves, which were healthy, to pay for this. And they said, well, you can do that to cover over a year. You can do that to cover a second year, but you can't keep doing it by definition because pretty soon the reserves, you have reoccurring expenses with no reoccurring income, and you're going to run out of your savings account. Mm-hmm. This year, they warned them not to do it. The city council overrode the city staff, and they did it. They went into deficit spending for a 3rd straight year. Now, I started calling this out 2 years ago and then definitely a year ago, and it's like a tax increase is the only bailout here. It's the only possible solution. This is coming. They denied it. The mayor flat out denied it during her election campaign. Blah, blah. We can go forward to all this conversation, but they were very disingenuous, pretending like there wasn't going to be a tax increase. Now they roll out their need a 1-cent sales tax increase to bail all this out. All right?
Right.
But here's the worst part, or here's why I'm talking about affordability. What they didn't see coming is this. By raising all those city employees' salaries and positions, not only is their general fund under this stress for the 1 cent, but they have these other funds that are utility funds. They have a water fund. They have an electric fund. They have a trash pickup fund. All of those have the same type of personnel expense pressure in them. So while they're asking for a 1 cent sales tax increase, they're also talking about back-to-back years of double-digit increases for water rates, huge increases in electric rates, a 5% increase this year for trash pickup, followed by a 10% the year after and a 10% the year after that. That was after going to roll carts, which were supposed to be cheaper. So there's this massive affordability thing just rolling into Columbia residents. Now, let me just pause right there.
On 2 fronts, taxation and then fees.
Correct.
Yeah.
And worse, or just to pile on here and then stop and pause, is in 2015 and 2018, voters approved massive bond issues, $60 million and $40 million, $100 million worth of bond financing to improve water infrastructure and electric infrastructure. Most of that work has never been done, and most of the money is gone.
Ouch.
Nothing corrupt, just didn't get it done. It's mismanagement, ineffective, couldn't get it done.
Promised and not delivered.
Yep, prices skyrocketed, right. So all that is now deferred maintenance that is still very real and has to be paid for. Plus, not counting in this is they have a $30 million recycling facility that's not included in all this. And they're not even being, I'm writing stories about inside City Hall, they're calling them out for not even telling people all of this is what's coming. So what it all leads up to is you don't pay attention to who you're electing. You don't pay attention to who you're hiring for administration because the people who are supposed to look after them are the people you're electing. You get this mismanagement. It's not corrupt. It's not illegal. It's not something an audit's going to fix. It's just the wrong people in the wrong job because nobody's paying attention who gets elected. And the next thing you know is your city begins to develop massive financial problems.
Well, another one out of City Hall, Mike, not to interrupt, but one that we've been watching on the media side is the announcement we had come down the pike that Christopher Ave, the spokesman of the university, will now be the new communications director for the city of Columbia to the tune of $150,000 salary with like a staff of 24 full-timers and a handful of part-timers.
Wow.
You know, that's a lot of money. Does a city really need 24 people in their communications department?
Well, that's what we got to go in and figure out. I think I did. I can't remember the number. I think they have about 35 people there that make over $100,000 a year. And I don't begrudge them. They got so many making over 150 and they got some making over $200,000. I don't really begrudge them that. But when they come to the vote, they do all this and they come to the voters with no option for cutting anything. They're saying it's all necessary. No options at all for cutting everything. And they deny that there's any bloat going on here. And sooner or later, this is going to come to a head. I think it's in the process.
There will be a day of reckoning.
I think the day of reckoning is here, but people don't know it yet, but they're about to.
Man, this is some apocalyptic things. And Mike does a great job of chronicling the facts as well as then, of course, doing the investigative work to put that all together in a chronological picture. I'm troubled about this messaging, this communications department expansion. Generally, if you have a really good product, you only need a few people to get the word out, and the product speaks for itself. I think there's an inverse relationship between the amount of messaging support you need and the quality of your product. I don't know. That's just me.
Yeah, they're a massive operation. I think the next thing that has to happen is
or is it called propaganda department?
Well, that's exactly the Tobler, the Department of Information. I think that somehow somebody's going to, and I look at it as my job, and I have to develop the capacity to do this. We have to go in and assign expense to function. They won't prioritize anything. They're making it clear. They're not going to prioritize anything. So somebody has to go in and say, what do we really need and what do we really not need? Because here's the thing, too, that just blows me away. I can't believe that the electeds are maintaining their progressive support because you know who gets hurt worse by this is the working families, the least fortunate among us, those struggling paycheck to paycheck to pay their bills. That's who's getting nailed here.
Fleeced, man.
Yeah, with sales tax and utility costs. So this progressive government, to me, is just failing badly at its number, at what it's attempting to achieve. And the reason it's failing so badly is it's just managing poorly.
Okay, I think that what's lost on the voters, maybe they've lost their sensibility of what government should be about. And that's a priority issue. You mentioned that, right?
Well,
I mean, isn't public safety, our police, our firemen, isn't that what really should be a priority?
Yeah.
Water, roads, electricity, right? It's sort of like when you get married and you have your kid, your dad sits you down and says, now kids, get that insurance policy, make sure you can cover your mortgage, put away a little bit. There's basic things you do in any organization that has a fiscal responsibility to other people, whether it's your family or whether it's your constituents. And they seem to be so scatterbrained with all these feel-good things. And, that's great. Homeless hotels and this program and that program. We've got to pay attention to the fundamentals.
I'm blaming the citizens of Columbia because of this, Randy. 10% show up to vote, 12%. Yeah. So what happens is special interests and activists are who get elected. So we're not electing sober community leaders who will look at the finances and look at what makes sense and just want to do the right thing for everybody. So they're all in there for their own special interest and the most important thing, which is the administration of the municipal operation, they don't care about. Nobody's getting elected for that. And most of them don't even understand it.
And it takes courage to make those decisions. And you may just be a one-term leader, but it takes courage to make some of the tough decisions and you know, in a way, be just the right amount of a communicator, an educator, and then an administrator or overseer to say, look, we know you want a putt-putt golf course in every public park. Sorry, don't you want people patrolling your streets and keeping the stabbings and the shootings down first? Well, then we'll talk about putt-putt golf elsewhere. Sorry, Don Luzader.
And that's what's so galling is they added those 150 positions. Now, some were firefighters because they added a new fire station, so they had to staff it up. But very few of those were actually police officers. Now, based on citizen input, they've had this revelation, we need police. So they're going to...
late to the game on that one, right? Because now we got to backfill that fund.
And that's why we need more sales tax so we can do that.
Well, Mike, not to beat up on management at City Hall in Columbia, but heck, that's what we're here for. And, I mean... They brought in a DEI, a diversity director, with DeAndre Thompson, and nothing against him.
He's a nice guy. I know.
But $90,000 for a DEI guy.
No. So here's, I've been after this DeCarlon Seawood thing. He's a very nice man.
He is.
Okay. But here's the thing. They hired him, and he came in as the deputy director. They handed him the keys to a $500 million full-service municipal conglomerate that has full-service utilities, trash pickup, and a whole city attached to it. His biggest job at mid-career in his 50s, his biggest job before that was the city manager of Ferguson. We have 1,600 employees. They have 150 employees and a $20 million budget. The whole entire Ferguson operation is smaller than our fire department. And that was his experience when they hired him. And it's like, what in the world was somebody thinking? Don't make him a bad guy. It just means, and then he doesn't go hire more experience. He hires cronies from Arnold and people who work with him in Ferguson. So we just have a lack of people in the type of places. Doesn't mean City Hall's in shambles. It just means it's struggling bad with leadership, and it needs a city council that will oversee it and hold it accountable. And right now, it's heading in the wrong direction.
Paul says what Mike is exemplifying is why local capital journalism is essential. And I think
I appreciate that.
Couldn't be said more proficiently and properly.
I feel like a lone voice in the woods over these last couple of years.
No. People are listening. It's just there's not as many people who are as activists on this side of the fence getting out there. What do we have, John, when we come back?
Well, a question for Hey Doc. Do you sight read? This kid's got you beat.
Music to my ears when we come back.
It's Wake Up
this.
Sterling NASA, student of politics and international studies at the University of Sydney in Australia, found himself in an unusual spot behind an electric keyboard during a live concert of the La La Land movie score. 21-year-old was in the audience, and when composer and conductor Justin Hurwitz made an unusual request from the stage during intermission, does anybody out there know how to sight read? The keyboardist got sick and local reinforcements were too far away, and he said, so I just thought, we have 2,500 people here in the audience. And he said despite NASA's background in music, who plays piano, organ, and bagpipes, he was hesitant to volunteer, but his buddies put him up to it. He headed down to the pit, and if being thrust into the spotlight wasn't enough, NASA also had to play a tricky piece, John Legend's Start a Fire, which has a complex solo in the middle of it. With no time, he improvised the piece, earning him a rousing ovation. And to be able to play a really cool solo in the right key and the right scale on the fly with no rehearsal, the conductor said was remarkable. How about that? 21 years old.
I can speak to that. I am not of that talent, but there were times when I had to come in and sit in on a Broadway show. I remember my first Broadway show was my dad was playing in the pit band for Chorus Line back in the day. And Dad had something come up where he couldn't do it. And so like he took the book home and we went over it, and I had to play it, Now it wasn't sight reading, but I know what that feels like. And I mean, that is a remarkable thing. A score of a big movie like that. Isn't that right? La La Land wasn't a big movie?
Yeah.
Can you imagine the pressure on that guy? Oh my gosh.
In Chorus Line, that's pretty tough.
Oh, I love that.
Marvin Hamlish stuff, right?
Yeah, right. And the opening, da 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 da. It starts out with a big trombone thing. I mean, I'm telling you, I brought an extra pair of shorts that night because it's like the trombone section's featured, and here I am sitting in, and I didn't even have a rehearsal with the group. By the grace of God, I got it right. But
that's a talent, boy. That's a unique talent.
But I mean, holy cow, that is something. Good God, love that guy. So I wonder if that'll propel him on to maybe he might get a call from that conductor, like, hey, would you like to come to Hollywood or to wherever, come and do some work with us?
21 years old.
Isn't that amazing?
What was the conductor's name? I didn't catch that part of the story.
The conductor, Justin Hurwitz.
Oh yeah, that's like the real guy. That's the real deal. Yeah,
Did he write the score?
Yeah, he wrote the score.
Oh, okay.
No, he's a huge
That makes
guy.
it even worse. I mean, more pressure. Yeah.
No, that's insane, actually, now that I'm saying it out loud. I know the listeners that, can't play a piano if they had the keys numbered and all that. But,
well, Drake,
wow.
You're a musician in your own right. I don't know whether you all have heard it, but Drake brought in his accordion one day and was playing accordion stuff. I mean, that's really...
By the way, if anyone knows where I can fix my accordion or knows someone that can fix my accordion, please reach out.
What happened?
Oh, I left it in my car and all the reeds
Oh, no.
got broke. Yeah.
Oh.
No, this was last year.
Wow, that's a shame.
1 year sober on accordion.
Should we do a crowd fund for you?
Yeah, GoFundMe on
GoFundMe for Drake's accordion?
Ooh, I wouldn't go that far, buddy.
So what do you play now, Drake? Anything else in the meantime?
Piano.
Oh, okay.
Back with Tanya J. Powers from Fox News Radio in about 5. Stay tuned.
You build greatness. You build greatness that way.
It's your morning addiction. Wake Up Missouri with Stephanie Bell.
And we will resist until this does not happen again.
The Zimmer News Team.
3/4 of American STEM students can't find employment after college.
And now introducing your host, Randy Tobler.
We're going to build it in a way that doesn't just prioritize the bottom lines of private equity firms or hedge funds or corporations. We're going to do it to prioritize the well-being and decency of every single person in this country.
Well, there's Graham Plattner delivering his populist message, a candidate that has more baggage than the bellhop at Ritz-Carlton. And he's up for a primary vote today. Tanya J. Powers joins us. It is primary day. Tanya, thanks for joining us and for helping us unpack what's at stake today. Welcome in.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
I hear the women on the street interviews throughout the last week in the wake of some of the allegations about his behavior. Tanya, and I'm amazed at how they are just saying, I don't care. I want Plattner. I find that interesting. Help me understand it.
I mean, it's you really only have to look back as far as 2016 to understand that. And there are a lot of women who probably don't understand why some women in Maine are saying, okay, fine, I'll vote for him. You know, the key race in the Senate, you know, the Democrats push to take back the Senate is this one in Maine. That's kind of what this all boils down to. This is a big race for them. If they fail to unseat Susan Collins, who's the incumbent GOP senator who's had that seat for decades at this point, then their path gets harder to win back the Senate, because then they've got to win a more Republican-leaning seat like Iowa or Texas or something like that. So they're seeing the Maine Senate race as, I guess, the straightest shot to, you know, help them win back the Senate. Interestingly, just to kind of give people an idea of, you know, like a lot of folks don't study Maine politics. To be honest, I didn't until this Senate race became a big thing. Senator Susan Collins is the lone GOP senator that's seeking re-election in a state that was carried by Kamala Harris in 2024. They also have a Democratic governor, Janet Mills. So you're talking about a state that is not just a completely red state with, you know, a GOP senator that's held that seat for a long time. It's a Republican stronghold situation. These are voters who also picked Kamala Harris and Janet Mills. So it's a very interesting, you know, voter base there in the state, you know, the voter, you know, makeup, so to speak.
And I've heard that
Janet Mills.
I've heard that Susan Collins has been sort of the golden tempo of politics there. She's been behind in the polls before, but yet she finds a way to win, right? The last time or two.
That is one of the things that makes this race so interesting. You know, obviously the Democrats are having a lot of issues with Graham Plattner in his past. As you mentioned, there have been voters who have consistently said, okay, I'm still supporting him. You know, he has still had a lot of support from voters. If he hadn't, I think he would have probably been pushed out by this point. And the donors certainly wouldn't still be putting money behind him. That's one of the reasons that, you know, Janet Mills, who's term limited, Governor Janet Mills, who's a Democrat, was on that, you know, was going up against him in the primary and suspended her campaign earlier this year. She was the establishment Democrat, you know, pick. She was the one that, you know, Chuck Schumer and the kind of establishment Democrats were behind. Didn't get enough, you know, support from donors, didn't get enough support, you know, period, apparently. She's term limited, so, you know, she's suspended her Senate campaign. She did, by the way, remind voters, week before last or whatever, hey, I'm still on the ballot after the most recent, you know, New York Times reporting about Graham Plattner came out. Right. So she just kind of was like, you know, I'm still going to be there right in front of you on Tuesday. Who knows if that will, you know, be enough for voters to go, yeah, you know what, let's do that. The other thing under Maine law, if Plattner gets the nomination, the state Democratic Party could still replace him with another nominee if he withdraws before the middle of July.
Oh.
Now, is that going to turn voters completely off? Because they're going to go, okay, well, wait a minute. We don't want the party going, okay, well, you know, this guy got out, so we're going to pick this person to go in, and this is who you get to vote for. I don't think that's going to sit well with them because of things that have happened with the Democratic Party in the past where they've been accused of that as well. my guess is he stays in it if he gets the nomination. I don't know. I'm not a strategist.
That's Tanya J. Powers joining us from Fox News Radio here on Wake Up Missouri.
Tanya, your thoughts on how do we get this deep into a U.S. Senate race with Planter, a candidate, no opposition research, not even internal research from the party. How does this surface so late in the game?
According to that New York Times reporting, part of the text messages and to women and things like that they reported on just last week, part of that was apparently has come from someone who was working, I guess with the campaign early in the campaign before he kind of blew up as a big name, and from the reporting that they've done, apparently that's how it became known when they, I guess, were doing a deep dive into, okay, what could come out later. It seems like they may have already known some of this stuff, his campaign might have, and just, decided, okay, well, this Senate seat's too important. He's also had, like you mentioned, he's also had the voters behind him. Mm-hmm. There have also been, he's done pretty well in the polling with the voters. And in any other, let's say prior to 2016, the tattoo would have been enough. Yep. Like that would have been the end of it. You know what I mean? In the before times political universe, any one of these things that have been, and it's not just, in his campaign, any one of the things in the Paxton campaign in Texas, the scandals, any of the things that would have, if any of the scandals that Trump was involved in, the Access Hollywood tape, that would have been enough for any candidate prior to 2016 to have just been like, well, pack it in, guys, we're done. That is not the political landscape anymore.
Maybe the unifying theme here is, on both sides of the fence, we're mad as heck and we're not going to take it anymore. People look at the ratings of Congress, look at people's general sentiments about politicians in general, and just they feel like they're just being fleeced more and more for higher and higher taxes and not getting they're not getting return on their investment out of their government. I mean, it seems to happen on both sides.
And this is the only way that this is literally the only way that voters have to make any kind of difference in what they're seeing more and more as something that is paid for by other people.
Yeah.
They don't have the big donor dollars that they can put behind. Most of us don't. I mean, most of us, we're just trying to afford, gas and groceries at this point. Like, people don't have tons of money to put behind a candidate to influence. So the influence that they have is their vote. That's it. And, I think we're seeing a lot more of, like I said, that anger and that I'm going to vote for who I want to because this is the only thing I have left to do that with.
I assume that we'll know the results of the primary there in Maine in reasonable time tonight, tomorrow. I don't think they extend things out. What do you think? What does it say about, if not the reality, at least the optics of a system in California where they're still counting out, 3/4 of the votes are in? Suddenly the preponderance of votes that come in after Election Day are way overwhelmingly skewed for a progressive candidate. You got to think, if you want to appear credible, wouldn't you want a more timely system?
Here's the thing that I find interesting every few years. We always get very involved in other people's elections because the states run their elections. That was how it's set up. That is how it's always been done. We don't have federal elections. We have state elections, for federal office. So the states have different ways of doing it. And every few years, there's always we don't think they're doing it right situation. Even though, think about it. California is enormous. They do have a different way of doing it. As long as it is postmarked by a certain time, then they will still count them. And they have until, a certain window when they're to come in, even if, they got to be postmarked by a certain date. Most states have done that. It takes California a whole lot longer. It takes Pennsylvania a whole lot longer. Yeah. If you'll recall back in 2020, I was in Pennsylvania for 7 days while they waited to get enough votes to call it, thinking, okay, well, it's probably going to be done tomorrow. I always find it interesting the way that, we learn a lot about our other states that we sit next to that we don't really know much about until stuff like this comes up and we're like, wow, why do y'all do it that way? That's kind of weird,
Talk to us about the whole angle of voter apathy. We've seen that sort of ebb and flow over the years, especially as we walk into the midterms. What about the undecideds?
That's going to be, the undecideds have been, as we've seen in the past few elections, they have been key to this. They were key in 2024. Those the swing voters, independent voters, whatever you want to call them, they were absolutely, one of the biggest reasons that Trump got reelected in 2024. He got a lot more people into his coalition. They weren't necessarily Republicans. They weren't necessarily conservatives. He managed to corral a whole lot more folks to go along with him in 2024, which is, that was key. That was a key part of the strategy. They did exactly what, they were trying to do. And it worked. And so, the key is to keep those voters kind of in the fold. From the polling that we have seen, even some Fox polling that has come out, which I would put our pollsters up against anybody's for, accuracy. I know our polling director, Dana Blanton, and she is very good at what she does. It's going to depend on those people turning out. And we already know that, in a midterm, no election gets as much, buzz and as much turnout as a presidential election. When there's a presidential on the ballot, people tend to turn out more. Midterms, not so much. Primaries, definitely not as much. So you've got a smaller and smaller section of the people who are actually choosing the people who are going to potentially represent you, as in the primary, and then represent you in the general. And I find it very interesting that those are the ones where people are like, all right, whatever. And they're the ones who are directly representing you, the voter, me, the voter. These are the people that we are sending to be our voice, yet they're the ones who the fewest amount of people traditionally are actually voting for.
There's so much cognitive dissonance there. It doesn't make sense. Well, as always, we've enjoyed the convo a whole lot, Tanya Powers. Thank you so much for all the work you do on the radio and with us on Wake Up Missouri. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on.
No, she nailed it. It doesn't make sense. Nope. People gripe about it in the aftermath, and they're not there when they can vote. Yeah. In some of these...
That's how I look at municipal elections.
Yeah, same deal. Yeah.
10-12% is a good election turnout.
That's so appalling. Wow. Hey, we'll be back and look at the morning bell and see what's ahead in the market. Stay tuned.
It's Wake Up Missouri.
On the morning bell, the Dow Jones were just a slight tenth of a percentage or so point down yesterday. S&P 100 and NASDAQ up about a third and almost a full percentage point yesterday. Today, as we are ahead of the markets just in a few minutes, things are looking positive across the board. I mean, all the way across the board. Dow, S&P, NASDAQ futures all up significantly in the futures market. And, Mike, would you ring your oil price bell and get ready for the celebration? It is down below $90 a barrel. It's down at $89 a barrel.
We need that to happen
on the oil market. Yeah. Now I don't know what the Brent crude is, but at any rate, this is good news. So that probably is a reaction to what we talked about earlier. Once again, Trump has gone to the well, pun intended, and said, "Oh, we've got an Iran deal close. Forget about what happened with the recent Israel and Lebanon dust-up, and then Iran and Israel got into it, and the Houthis got... Never mind. I'm in control." He said that. I'm in control. And maybe he is. And the markets seem to respond to him like a dog to a trainer.
They do.
It's amazing.
It is.
Trump,
and I think it's reflective of, I have faith in the markets to a degree. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I as an indicator of confidence.
I have more faith in them than I do human judgments.
And some of the media stuff you hear. Now, the markets are going to disappoint you from time to time, although you should see that coming too. But no, in terms of measuring sentiment, positive markets are a good thing.
Trump said yesterday that a deal to end the war in Iran could be reached in 2 or 3 days. That's in quotes, 2 or 3 days.
Yeah.
Then he expanded, said, quote, "very, very good deal that will not in any way allow nuclear weapons." What does it mean? Will there be I heard talk that, is it Qatar or Oman and Iran were sort of buddying up together to say there will be a $2 million tariff on every ship passing through there as part of any deal that we agree. Man, he said that the war, Israel's Netanyahu said yesterday that the war against Iran and Hezbollah has not ended yet. So we've got this tension between Netanyahu and Trump, and they've been transparent about it. The Israeli ambassador was on Fox last night saying, well, you know, the guys can disagree, but we will never, ever leave the United States, and the United States will never, ever leave us. Don't be so quick. You get an administration of AOC and Mamdani, or Newsom and AOC, or Newsom and Mamdani, we will run from Israel like I do from a skunk.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that it's in Netanyahu's interest to allow Trump to pretend in a way that he's in charge.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a symbiosis in that relationship that makes perfect sense to the rest of the world, and I think they're actually managing it, or I feel like they're actually managing it pretty well. And I'd give Netanyahu a lot of credit and Trump a little bit of credit for their ability to do that, because it's important that they do that.
It is. It is. And look, in a way, I'm glad that Trump has had more patience than I would ever expect from him.
I agree.
On the other hand, people, including me and many of the generals and the military people, scratching their heads going, what do you really think that their posture, that means Iranians, is ever going to change?
I agree with that, too. And I think Trump's credibility is starting to get in trouble here.
Yeah. He better come up with a deal one of these times, right? I mean, it's just a matter of how long can you promise? Mm-hmm. All you folks who need dating advice, Drake brings that next.
All right.
Has America been fair to
Talking about geopolitical grand matters like Iran, Israel, fighting, the United States, Apache helicopter downed. We don't know if it was a mechanical problem or fire, but a sea drone picked up the Apache crew there in the sea, in the Straits. That happened overnight. We talk about important things. We talk about municipal governance and your taxes and gas bills there. But the thing that is most important to everyone, at least once in their life, and in some cases multiple times in your life, is the love of your life. And you search. Right, Mike Murphy, in for Stephanie? You search and you...
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
And then I think about that old song on...
You're setting this up so
I searched the world over and you was gone. Remember that on
I do.
Hee-haw? Yeah.
Hee-haw.
Okay.
This is the worst setup ever for me.
Well, one of the things that's important to a young man just moved into a new apartment.
I bought a new car last week.
Bought a new car. Those are all important.
I moved into my new apartment, and I went on the first date in over a year.
So everything pales. The difficulty of moving in the rain and having to get a car. And I know you're trying to pay your bills. You're a young man, and it's a tough. But the important things in life, the priority, is finding that special lady. And as he pens his book during the breaks and sometimes during the segments called The Art of the Date, we now bring you the adventures of young Drake. Tell us about your first date in a long time, Drake.
Okay, where do I start? So I may or may not have met this girl on Instagram DMs.
You may or may not have. Okay.
I might have slid into her DMs. That's what the kids do. This all started out, we planned like mid last week for 4:00 on Monday, which was yesterday. Mm-hmm. I got rained out for moving my bed, so I was like, hey, I'm going to move my bed before I go on the date. Can we move it to 6? I still was 10 minutes late.
Ooh.
Great start to the date. Just an immaculate start. And then I pull up. I didn't pick her up. Those days are gone.
No, you don't pick up the lady anymore?
You don't pick up the lady anymore. You meet them at the spot.
Oh,
at least for the first date.
Where's the chivalry? Where is the courtesy of opening the door for the lady?
Well, Jeffrey Dahmer ruined that for us. Sorry. Him and a bunch of other serial killers.
Okay. No trust. No
trust.
Maybe it starts with sliding into the DM,
taking her out for dinner.
Not at church, not at the choral rehearsal or the bird sanctuary doing volunteer work. You slid into her DM. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, So we pull up. I text her that I'm there. I parked right next to her. I knew it was her. She said she was in the white Chevy Malibu. Nervous out of my mind. We get out. We go up to the front desk at Midway.
Yeah.
And we planned on going mini golfing.
Yeah.
The course was flooded.
Ooh.
Not a great start.
You hadn't scoped it out.
No, I hadn't. Well, I didn't think about it. I called them last week. They said it should be open, and then it rained a bunch, so I didn't even think about that.
Okay.
So then we go, and
where'd you end up?
We ended up going to the driving range there. Holy crap, was that a bad idea?
Why is that?
Neither of us know how to golf.
Oh.
Neither of us know how to swing a golf club.
Wow.
And it was bad. Now, I hope she's not listening because I didn't tell her this whenever we were there, but she did hit me with a golf ball.
Really?
Yeah.
But how does that happen? Where were you standing?
That's a great question. I was standing behind her.
Foul tip, huh?
Yeah, and I think she spliced it like so hard that whenever it left the tee, it bounced off the little divider, the 3-foot divider. And bounced backwards and it hit me in the arm.
Yeah.
And she was like, "Oh my gosh, did that hit you?" And I was like, "Oh no, I'm fine." And I'm just thinking to myself, this is the best story for radio.
But it's a great one at the time. It's at the moment. I mean, right? It's humorous. You're vulnerable. You got hit.
Drake, I think what curious minds must be wondering is, seriously, a year between dates?
Yeah.
You got a health problem or something?
No, well, that's crazy.
He keeps strange hours, Mike. It's morning radio.
That is true, for one. For two, I haven't lived in Columbia in over a year, and that's a big handicap. Yeah. Whenever you live in Jeff or back at home, it's like, I don't.
So you were in Fayette there.
Yeah, we'll say that. But it was just, it was a deal. But we're back in the game. We dusted off the cleats, and we're so back.
So
and
that
I don't think there will be a second date, though.
Well, with a different girl, perhaps.
Yeah.
Not a year, not another year.
Yeah, it shouldn't be a year, hopefully. I pray.
So did you go somewhere to eat then after that?
No, so she lives in St. Louis, so she left right after the date.
She came up to see you from St. Louis.
Yeah.
And you took her to a flooded mini golf course.
What am I supposed to do?
Get a weather report?
Yeah.
Get a weather report? Yeah. I knew it rained. I didn't think about it. I didn't think that mini golf courses, they're always that stupid turf. They're not actual grass.
Well, your mind was probably on other things.
Yeah. Like the other three. Never mind. It's going to stop while I'm ahead. But yeah, I think we had a good time. We'll see if a second one comes.
Is she a student up here? I mean, or is this just no?
I'd rather not get into the specifics on her.
Okay, you'd rather not get into the specifics.
Well, for Wake Up Missouri, she's girl 1.
Did you tell her that you were on the radio? Because sometimes if you're in the performance industry, whether it's broadcasting or music or anything, sometimes you get a little trump card, you know? Sometimes that's a little one-eyed jack, no?
Yeah, I mean, I brought it up.
Did that impress?
Cool.
Oh, I never bring up that I'm in news talk. I always talk about I do stuff for sports. That's more.
Oh, the news talk would have been a big turnoff.
Oh, no.
Well, what if she was a big conservative? What if she was a young Republican at her high school?
That second or third date, Randy. We don't go straight in I'm on a Trump-toting, gun-loving station where we have crazy...
So you hadn't learned that much about her, some of her political feelings? Was there a rainbow on her DM profile or anything? I mean...
No, there wasn't.
Well, you could have maybe made some assumptions.
She could be non-political, and some people, they are just like moderate left or moderate right, and I don't know. I'm just not going to go out and be like, you know what? I'm the most right-leaning conservative you've ever met. That's not a great way to start off a date.
Well, unless she's the most right-leaning conservative you've ever met. Then it's magic. It's Fantasia. It's a beautiful thing.
Drake's good at hedging his bets. Let's give him credit for that.
Thank you, John, because Randy, you keep on comparing me to you. You keep on going oh, these kids don't know how to date. These kids are getting married. You met Helene in high school.
No. I had to work hard. I had to work hard for a year for that. For
a year.
To finally
my God! And how long have you been married?
See a little bit of goodness in me. It took a year.
How long have you been married?
It'll be 45 years in August.
45 years. That is twice as long as I have lived.
We got married at age 5.
That is twice as long as I have lived.
Yeah, Helene was age 5.
No, she looks it. I don't know what happened along the way.
She
stopped the aging clock.
You got the unicorn.
Yeah,
Helene's great.
I know.
I'm not going to find a unicorn by sliding into people's DMs.
Well, look, if Helene can settle for a guy like me, you can find a woman to settle for a guy like you.
Oh, don't be that down on yourself, Randy. I mean, you had a killer mustache in the 90s. Oh, yeah. You looked like a stud back then.
Did you see the meme?
Jesus.
that a producer put up of me? But I do a Saturday show on a different place, and my producer there took a Mr. T from the day and had a meme made with me and called it Dr. T with the chains and the mohawk haircut. It was hilarious. Nice. Congratulating us for the MBA award that we won. So. Oh, well, at any rate.
What you talking about?
Yeah, what you talking about? I was at a conference once with up in Chicago, and we were there, Chicago Court City Center, somewhere right there down in the heart of, okay, and I got a pass to work out in the gym, and Helene and I went down there, and here I was in the locker room, and all of a sudden, Mr. T walks in with his entourage. Mm-hmm. The real thing, Mr. T. Nicest guy ever. I'm like, oh, man, I watch you on the TV. I really love the show, you know? And, oh, yeah, man, that's cool. That's good. Glad you liked the show. It's good. It was really cool. It was and he had the chains on. He had the whole deal going on. But he wasn't ostentatious when you met him. He's a good guy.
And he found out Randy was in radio, and he said, I pity the fool.
Yeah, pity the fool. Remember, he was in there with George Papard, right?
The A-Team, is that what it was?
The A-Team. Yeah, remember that? The A-Team. When was that?
Drake, you remember that?
The 90s?
I know the A-Team.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm just thinking to myself, if you met him in the locker room, did you just take a shower? Do you got the towel wrapped around?
Did he point and laugh or anything?
Oh, no, wait a minute. That's when we were doing sprint triathlons, baby. I'm telling you.
Okay.
No, we were. I got on the scale the other day. I've dropped some weight. The plan's working. The plan's working. Back in the pool swimming.
Cool.
It's good. It's working out good.
Are you working out, Drake? Are you working out, Drake?
Yeah.
All right.
No, I don't want to say conned. That's a bad term. But
yeah, you probably don't want to apply that to yourself.
No, but I did convince my grandmother, who was we were shopping.
Oh, elder abuse, is it? You conned your grandmother. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's a great way to start this one. So you know what creatine is, right? It helps you build muscle mass.
5 grams a day. Thank you very
yada,
much.
yada, yada. Well, I told her that it was like for brain supplement because it said it on the package. I just really wanted the gains. And it's like a good flavor too. Ooh, I'm so excited to try that out today.
You've got this really special way, of endearing yourself to older people.
Well, I'm on a show with you, and that doesn't help anything.
Constant insult.
I'll help them across the street. I mean, I love old people. I hang out with them like.
Don't worry, Drake. We'll make it through. I'll get across the street. Which button do I push here?
Well, Randy, how long have you been doing radio? And I still have to hey, your mic's off. Hey, this is wrong. Hey, we're back. Yeah.
Well, I'm not used to running a board.
He needs to up his creatine.
Been in radio for almost 30
creatine.
years, but I'm not used to actually doing the stuff that I do on this program. I have to run the board, launch the sound, do all that stuff. Different responsibilities. I'm learning. Jeez, cut me some slack, dude.
At least Randy doesn't go to the flooded driving range in pouring rain.
Really. All right, when we come back, this Carmelo Anthony trial has me captivated a little bit. This we'll talk about that. The closing arguments are today. That's the young black man who ended up in the white boy's tent, and he stabbed the white boy. Well, it wasn't the white boy's tent, but it was a different team's tent. And, the defense is claiming racism. He's claiming it's back and forth. And we'll have to see where it goes, but we'll come back and talk about that when we come back on Wake Up Missouri. Wrap it up.
It's Wake Up Missouri.
You've been following this story, this Carmelo Anthony. This happened a couple years ago or last year. These guys were at a high school game, and apparently, I don't know whether there's a tent with one team in the seating section there, and another tent, another team. Well, apparently, Carmelo Anthony came into the tent of another team. He's a young black man.
Yeah, track meet.
And this Austin Metcalf and his brother were in their team's tent, and Carmelo Anthony comes in and sort of starts creating a little ruckus. And what unfolded was they said, "Hey, you're in the wrong tent. This is our team's tent. You're not supposed to be here." And he said, well, he had his hand in his pocket. He said, well, hey, touch me and you're going to find out what's going to happen here. And apparently Austin Metcalf did, according to witnesses, do a little shove. And Anthony took a knife out and stabbed him in the heart, and he died right there on the spot. Well, now the trial's been going on, and unfortunately, for Carmelo, there's been $600,000, I think, in his defense, donated by people saying this is a racist prosecution because Austin Metcalf is white and Carmelo's black. But apparently, in testimony, either yesterday or Friday, the defense, one of the defense witnesses, basically, turned sour and said. So there's been some interesting back and forth on it, but the closing arguments are today, and then it'll go to a jury to see whether he's, guilty of murder or not. And
can we talk about the ridiculous naming of these people? Because I like Metcalf, that's a wide receiver. Carmelo Anthony, one of the greatest basketball players to ever do it.
Former New York Knick.
Yeah, former New York Knick. This is terrible timing, and obviously I'm not making light of the situation. This is terrible. But the naming is also just so bad as well, because I'll look and Carmelo Anthony's up to something. Oh, wait, never mind.
Yeah.
That's another Carmelo Anthony.
Yeah. So he's claiming self-defense, and the jury's going to have to decide. The other kid pushed him, put his hands on him, gave him a push in the chest or something. And then, interesting, he has a knife in his backpack. So out comes the knife, stabs the guy in the chest.
Right.
And now, so the question is going to become, is that self-defense or not? And no winners here. I mean, one kid's dead. The other may or may not get exonerated. But it would be really curious how the jurors see this.
I mean, I think they've transcribed or read some of the transcriptions of some of the testimony, and it sounds like the weight of the testimony is that Carmelo Anthony was provoking an incident here.
In the beginning.
And then when there was a little pushback from Austin, the question is, do you meet a little shove in the chest with deadly force?
Right.
Is that a legitimate self-defense? Jen Bukowski, I think, is going to be in tomorrow. We'll ask her about that. I'm curious about it. I don't know.
We don't know all the details of the case. I know I haven't followed it that closely, pretty much just the overview. But you just kind of wonder out loud, where were the coaches at in all this? I mean, when we were in athletic matchups and track meets, coach was in no uncertain terms telling you, hey, stay away from them. Stay over here. Don't go over and provoke them or mess with their fans or whatever.
Yeah. Well, now, apparently there was sort of a, quote, common denominator between Anthony and Memorial High School, which is the tent that he allegedly trespassed into. And that was an 18-year-old Edwin Pera. So Anthony knew one of the athletes in the tent. Pera tried to distance himself from Anthony in his testimony Saturday, but defense attorneys showed photos of him with Anthony at family gatherings. So they're arguing that but I don't think that really is, if I'm a juror, I don't think that's relevant to me. I was asked to get out of the tent, and I would think that, that doesn't justify, even if a guy touches me on the chest, there seems to be a culture of violence where if you do something to me that offends me by my subjective judgment, I can shoot or stab you. I don't know. Mike, thank you for being here, brother.